I was happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and I'm coming with a big time Washington Commander quarterback update. It's really just a draft update in general, but we're going to focus mostly on which quarterback we will more than likely take second overall. We have a lot of major updates and reports. We have Jayden Daniels and Drake Maye both doing separate interviews. We're going to break down any notable quotes from those. We're going to also talk about how the Washington Commanders right now are reportedly turning down any trade calls for that second overall pick. So you may want to go ahead and just assume we are taking quarterback second overall if you didn't already assume that since months ago, even before we traded away Sam Howell. Also, Jayden Daniels did appear on Nightcap with Unc and Ocho, and Drake Maye appeared on another show. So again, we're going to break those down. Jayden Daniels talked about his weight goal and the Washington Commanders receivers in his interview, and then Drake Maye lit up when talking about the Commanders in his interview. And then we also have more pick predictions from some of the most notable guys like John Com, who's arguably the reporter closest to the Commanders than anybody else out there. Then we have Adam Schefter, we have Rick Spielman, we have Daniel Jeremiah. So we're going to dive into all of that, and we're going to have some betting lines at the end as well. But before we do, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. I really appreciate y'all for staying tuned and supporting me. Make sure y'all pull up for the live stream for the drafts, the multiple live streams. I'll be live streaming round 1 on Thursday, rounds 2 and 3 on Friday, and at least rounds 4 and 5 on Saturday. And y'all know me, man. I'm a Commanders fan, but I'm also just a super duper football fan. So I will be predicting and analyzing every single pick while I'm live streaming, not just the Commanders. I'm doing every NFL team that's making a pick at that time. And also make sure you go follow the TikTok, the Twitter, the Instagram, and the Facebook channels, because we're keeping content on there daily as well. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this video right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so let's start with the most notable things that we could take away from the Jayden Daniels interview that he had with Shannon Sharp and Chad Ochocinco, aka Chad Johnson, on their Nightcap show. And they talked about the draft process, talked about the Raiders, talked about potentially being selected second overall, like all of the typical stuff you would expect them to talk about. And he said himself, quote, he wants to go wherever his name is called, unquote. So he's perfectly fine with going wherever he ends up getting drafted. Of course, if you're a competitive quarterback like I'm sure he is, he probably wants to be drafted as soon as possible. Does he seem to prefer the Raiders? Yes, we're going to get to that, especially when we get to the Drake Maye part of this video. Does it seem like he prefers, like, dream case scenario, somehow the Raiders trade up to number 2 overall and get him? Yes, that seems like it's more than likely, but at the end of the day, he seems very happy with wherever he ends up going. He's going to go ball out and try to lead that team to getting some Super Bowl rings. Also, Chad Ochocinco has always shown love to Washington Commanders receivers. Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, even before other people in the national media were doing it, Chad Johnson was always on it, especially with Terry McLaurin. Even like a couple of years ago, before Terry McLaurin was starting to get all of this shine from all of the national media, Chad Johnson was one of the first people. And when he brought them up, he was basically saying like, hey, it looks like you could go as early as 2. You see the Washington Commanders, like Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and things like that. And Jayden Daniels literally said himself, yeah, they have some dogs in that room right there. So he seems, at the very least, even though he's very nonchalant, he seems relatively excited about potentially being able to throw to those guys. And Chad Johnson said that's like a really good situation to go into. You'll be able to hit the ground running with those types of receivers. And that's a great point there. I mean, especially if you're looking at with the Patriots have in comparison, I would far more, if I'm a college quarterback prospect coming out of the draft, prefer to go to the Commanders. And then the Raiders, I mean, maybe they have better receivers than the Patriots, but I'm not sure if their team is that much better. I feel like not only are the Commanders higher in draft pick order, second overall, but they're also a better team to go to. I feel like they're going to be a better ran organization with Adam Peters leading everything that Dan Quinn has put together as far as this coaching staff. If I'm a quarterback prospect, me personally, Rico of Street Scores, I would prefer to go to the Commanders, just simply because I believe it's going to have more long-term success and instant success as well. And he also just seems like he's good with going to the Commanders. Let's go back to that. I mean, because I feel like that's the main thing. Now, maybe he doesn't blush as much when he's talking about the Commanders compared to when he does with the Raiders and Antonio Pierce. But even he admitted that it is a very slim chance in that interview with Chad Johnson and Shannon Sharpe that he could even possibly go there. Like, they literally asked him about the possibility of him going to the Raiders. Smiled really big, but he was like, yeah, man, I mean, how? How would that even be possible? How would the Raiders get up even anywhere near high enough to get me? It's pretty much he already knows that that's just a dead dream right there. Is it a dream of his? Maybe so, but he knows that it's very, very slim. He even admitted that in the group. Now, maybe in a scenario where he could pick where he goes second overall. Now, again, maybe in a scenario where he could pick who gets the second overall pick, then maybe he would choose the Raiders to pick higher than Washington. But he seems perfectly fine with going as high as possible in the draft, no matter what team it is. He's ready to go in there, compete, and ball out. Also, Jayden said that the team that drafts him will more than likely plan to progressively work on adding some weight to his slimmer frame right now. He's talked about how teams, like every team that talked to him and is seriously considering drafting him, has brought up the weight, and they all have some sort of a plan to add some weight over time. And I completely agree with this. That came from @command_this. He said, regardless of where he goes, teams know he has to add some weight in a progressive, safe manner without jeopardizing his play speed, and all of that type of stuff. And that's a great thing. And he also said in the interview, really interesting, this is my first time ever hearing him say exactly what he played at. He said last year for LSU, he played at 205, and that teams want to get him up to like 215, 220. But again, let it be very slowly over time, not by week one. Let it just, you work on that. NFL diet, NFL gym will get you there eventually. He has the frame to get that if you really want him to. But again, I don't want to jeopardize any speed from it. So let's do it slowly. Let's maybe sometime in the middle of the season, he finally reaches 215, 220. And maybe week by week, he's just going up a pound or two or something like that. But I do not want by week one, this guy's 215, 220, because that's going to change the way he throws the ball. It's going to make him less accurate because now he has to adjust to this new weight. It's going to make him slower and things like that. So, hey, man, add the weight, but very slowly, please, in a very safe and healthy way. He also said that he grew up a 49ers fan, and I really hope people aren't shocked. Like, bruh, he's from California, dog. He's not from the DMV, and we also even have people from the DMV that don't even grow up Commanders fans. Like, I think Chase Young grew up like an Eagles fans or something. Like, we've been so average and or just straight up sorry for so long that even people born and raised in the DMV area don't grow up Commanders fans. So there's no way you expected Jayden Daniels. I saw some people bothered by the fact that he was a 49ers fan. He's from California. Why would he root for the Commanders all the way from California, and we've been this bad his entire life? That's why winning as soon as possible will be so great, because then we can start to actually have Commanders fans not only in the DMV area, but like new young Commanders fans around the world, around the country, and things like that. Right now, if you're a Commanders fan, you literally either from the DMV or somebody in your family is a Commanders fan, and you idolize that family member. They like the Commanders, so now I like the Commanders too as I'm growing up. That's really about the only situations. Nobody's really just turning on the TV and being like, you know what, that's a team I want to root for the rest of my life. Not yet, at least. I believe we're going to become that soon, and I'm very excited about that. And then also, he went on Kevin Hart's show called Cold as Balls, and it was on YouTube, and it was actually a live show this time. Typically, it's not live, but this time it was live. And I like how he finally opened up and showed a little bit more of his personality, because typically you only see a little bit of his personality in like the live streams he does with his LSU receivers like Malik Neighbors and those guys. Other than that, he's like very quiet, nonchalant, chill. Even with Shannon Sharpe and Ocho, it seemed like he wasn't really opening up as much as he did on the Kevin Hart show. But then again, Kevin Hart is a comedian and got him laughing. He opened up a little bit more. He was even joking around a little bit. He seemed very likable in that interview. But also, if you go look at that interview as well, one thing that you notice is that he's definitely bulked up a little bit. He's definitely been hitting the gym leading up to this draft. Because if you look at his highlights from LSU this past season, he looks way skinnier than he looked in the interview. It's still not like he's like this or anything, but he's clearly more cut. His arms look a little bit bigger. So he probably already at least weighs more than that 205 he played at LSU this past season. He's probably at least 210 right now, minimum. And then now moving on, let's talk about the most notable things to take away from the Drake Maye interview. Kevin Clark did an interview with Drake Maye yesterday, and there were several interesting quotes that came from it. I feel like Drake Maye's interview was the most insightful, the most interesting by far to me. We're going to dive into it. But of course, he was asked about the infamous Topgolf visit, and Drake Maye lit up with happiness about that visit and said, quote, "I think I had the best swing. I was hitting it pretty good, but JJ McCarthy was hitting it well as well." You can tell that Topgolf was literally Drake Maye's domain. If you watch JJK, that's where he shines. Like, that's where he could easily stand out. So that trip was definitely an advantage in his favor. I don't know if y'all have seen the clip, but there's literally a video of Drake Maye going around of him golfing, like actual golfing, not Topgolf, but like actually on the green. And his swing was so smooth. It looked like he just, that's like his second sport type of thing. And so, of course, he was in his element, and I can see why he probably enjoyed the Topgolf visit more than anybody else. So I'm still not exactly sure how Jayden Daniels felt about the Topgolf visit for real, not his agents, but how he felt about it. But I do know that at least Drake Maye loved it and had a great time at Topgolf. Also, it was really interesting when Drake Maye was asked about the Commanders, because his face lit up when he talked about the Commanders. The same way that Jayden Daniels' face lights up when people ask him about the Raiders, that's the way that Drake Maye starts to smile even before he lets out a single word after being asked about the Commanders, man. So for whatever it's worth, and it may mean nothing, but it definitely seems like Jayden's dream team would be the Raiders. But he does, again, like we talked about earlier, does know that it's an extremely, extremely slim chance that the Raiders could even potentially end up getting them. And he's basically accepted that and is excited to go to whatever team ends up drafting him. So there's no worry about, like, if we take him, do we have to worry about Jayden Daniels sabotaging his own career out of spite? I don't think you have to worry about that at all. I don't think he's even going to risk even trying to pull an Eli Manning. He could if he wanted to, but he's not. Just to let you know, if Jayden Daniels really didn't want to play for the Washington Commanders, he would pull an Eli Manning. He hasn't done that yet, so we're good to go. But then you have, on the other hand, no worries on the Drake Maye end, because if anything, Drake Maye seems to have the Commanders as his favorite team to land with. That's his dream team. Again, I'm sure that if we do end up taking Daniels, he's going to do everything in his power to ball out and lead us to Super Bowls. But Drake Maye loves the Commanders. Again, the same way that Jayden Daniels seems to love the Raiders, that's how Drake Maye feels about the Commanders. He definitely gets more excited about talking about the Commanders than Jayden Daniels does. The only time Jayden Daniels gets out of his super nonchalant and chill demeanor is when he's talking about his former Arizona State defensive coordinator Antonio Pierce and the team that he's head coaching for right now. But Drake Maye, on the other hand, already loves the Commanders. That's his team. It just seems like, from the way that their body language, their faces, the way they talk about these teams in interviews, definitely seems like Drake Maye is the biggest fan of the Commanders out of any of the teams. And it's super huge and super, super happy news for me, man. I don't know how y'all feel, but Drake Maye also mentioned in his interview that Georgia offensive tackle Amarius Mims was on the visit with the Washington Commanders joint visit that Drake Maye and all of those guys were on. And that is the best news of the day for me, of the week, by far for me. I just did a film session on him a couple of days ago, not even knowing that he had a top 30 visit with us. So for me, the best case scenario in this draft class is we either get Jayden Daniels or Drake Maye second overall. I lean slightly towards Jayden Daniels though, but I'm very happy with either one. And then after that, we trade back up into the first round to get Amarius Mims or Olu Fashanu, even though I lean more towards Amarius Mims because, one, I believe he'll go later in the draft, so we would have to give up less pick value in return for our move up into the first round to get him. We wouldn't have to move up as far to get Amarius Mims as we would with an Olu Fashanu, from what I believe so far going into the draft. And then number two, Amarius Mims has the highest ceiling in this draft class out of all of the tackles, easily in my opinion. I think his ceiling is even higher than Darnell Wright, DeJuan Jones, both of those tackles from last year, and Olu Fashanu in this draft. I really feel like he has the highest ceiling of any tackle we've seen in at least a few drafts. I'm that high on him. So again, this is huge news for me, because when the deadline of the top 30 visits passed, there was no report about Amarius Mims. I did a whole video breaking down all of the confirmed top 30 visits that we had. He was not on that list, so I assumed, okay, we just didn't have a visit with him. Now our only source of Mims coming to Ashburn at any point for a visit for the Commanders is through this interview by Drake Maye that we're talking about. So just off of Amarius Mims alone, Drake Maye's interview is far more interesting than anything Jayden Daniels had to say for me, man. If we somehow walk away with Jayden Daniels or Drake Maye plus Amarius Mims on Thursday, I might cry on live stream. I'm not gonna lie, man. I might have to shed a tear because that's my dream case scenario. And then Jordan Reed of ESPN did a full 7-round entire NFL involved mock draft. And in it, he talks about how the Commanders are very likely to trade up in the first round to get either Tyler Guyton or Amarius Mims. Yes, please. So there's momentum there. We had a top 30 visit with them, even though that was completely under wraps, very tight-lipped. Literally, the only reason we know is because Drake Maye said it. So shouts out to Drake Maye. I really appreciate you for that. That has me even more excited about this draft because I didn't know that they even had Amarius Mims on their radar and that there was any serious interest there. So I'm very happy about that. But then also you have Jordan Reed of ESPN saying that the Commanders are quite likely to trade up for a tackle, and they could be potentially targeting Amarius Mims. I'm very excited. Also, while we're on the topic of top 30 visits, another late report that just came out, and this is completely separate from the quarterback, but apparently cornerback Beanie Bishop, who led the nation in pass breakups with 20 and passes defense with 24 this past season in college. He's a dynamic athlete that ran a 4.39 40 time, had a 4.15 short shuttle at the Big 12 Pro Day, and he's also a special teams return ace as well. So, I mean, this is a guy that pretty much solves two of your problems, cornerback and return specialist if you need him to. But apparently, it's coming out very late as of just earlier today that he had top 30 visits with the Browns, Steelers, and the Commanders. So add him to the list of top 30 visits as well. And then now let's move on to a lot of the reports and rumors going on around the NFL right now that have some effect on the Commanders one way or another, or at the very least gives us some clues as to what the Commanders may be doing in this upcoming draft. First of all, the Giants are looking to trade up, and the belief is that it's for UNC quarterback Drake Maye. So what I take from that is, does that mean that Jayden Daniels is assumed and confirmed to basically be the pick for the Commanders? Like, do NFL teams know something that us fans don't yet? Because it seems like the Giants are moving forward with their draft plans, assuming that Jayden Daniels will be gone at 2. So now they're trying to focus on moving up to get Drake Maye specifically, because again, it's assumed that Jayden Daniels will not be available. It sounds like the Commanders already have their guy in mind. We'll see how that goes. Also, speaking of trading draft picks, teams are trying to, this is coming from Deanna Rossini herself. She said teams are trying to move up for a quarterback and calling Washington and being told they are not moving. Washington's GM Adam Peters has publicly stated that the Commanders feel great about staying at number 2 and picking their quarterback. He said that like over a week ago and already did that report on that, but that's really interesting. And then you also had Ian Rappaport soon afterwards say and report on Twitter, while the Commanders and Patriots have received calls from other teams attempting to move up for a quarterback, Washington has shown no indication it would move, per me and Mike Garafolo. But New England, on the other hand, would move for the right offer. It's just the fact that the Pats have not received such offer yet. So we'll see what happens with the Patriots. They're still listening. They're still like, okay, just depending on what the price is, we may be willing to move down. The Commanders are like, nah, we're good. We are not moving down. We are taking quarterback 2nd overall. So again, if somehow you still didn't know that the Commanders were taking quarterback at number 2 overall, there you go to further back that up. Also, Mike Garafolo brought up another point. He said, not surprisingly, the Raiders are among the teams who tested the Commanders on moving out at 2. Even after Washington general manager Adam Peters told the media the team planned to stick and pick at number 2 overall. So the Raiders tried it, y'all. The Raiders really, really tried it. They must really want Jayden Daniels. And of course, we've already talked about how Jayden Daniels would love to go to the Raiders. But how the Raiders gonna get him if they can't trade up high enough to get him? Maybe they could try to trade up to the 3rd pick, but again, Jayden Daniels is quite likely not to be there. So that's not a trade they will make until, say, scenario-wise, we do take Drake Maye 2nd overall, and then Jayden Daniels is sitting there at 3. Now you call the Patriots about trading up to 3. You don't do it before the draft, because say you trade up and you give up all of that draft value, all of that trade value and picks to move up to number 3, and then we take Jayden Daniels at number 2, and now you're sitting there looking silly because you prefer Jayden Daniels, and now he's gone already. So if the the Raiders still do want to move up, they'll probably just wait until the draft starts to unfold, and we'll see how that goes. And then now moving on to some of the final predictions from major analysts and football guys that are as close to the Commanders as possible. The John Comm made his final prediction for the Commanders for ESPN, because they go around and like they literally have like a camera in every city where each of these reporters are representing their teams. And guess where John Comm made his pick from? Just guess. Just take a wild guess. So John Comm made his second overall pick in the 2024 ESPN final NFL mock draft in front of the very top golf that all of the top quarterback prospects went to. Hey man, shouts out to John Comm. I love a sense of humor. I love that. Now, of course, he picked Jayden Daniels. He just recently said on Kevin Sheehan's podcast that he assumes from everything that he's heard, everything that he knows so far. Again, Adam Peters is keeping his lips shut right now, but based off of John Comm, who's as close to the Commanders you can possibly get as being a reporter wise, he's saying that his prediction right now is Jayden Daniels. He even said in that quote on the Kevin Sheehan podcast, like, don't get mad at me. Like, it's not up to me. It's not my decision. That's not my preference. But based off of everything that I'm hearing and seeing right now, it's looking like Jayden Daniels will be the pick. And then next up, even more number 2 overall pick predictions. You have Adam Schefter going on the Pat McAfee show earlier today, and he said, quote, the 2 teams that have expressed the most interest in moving up have been the Vikings and the Giants. And the Giants have like the 6th pick. So if they're moving up, they're trying to get more than likely like a Drake Maye or Jayden Daniels, maybe even a JJ McCarthy, who we'll see, but it's not going to be like a Michael Penix type of guy. But then he also continued to say the most likely scenario is that the Commanders stay at number 2 and take Jayden Daniels. And that's like the exact tweet from Pat McAfee himself. So it sounds like Adam Schefter is making his final prediction to be Jayden Daniels to the Washington Commanders. And then you also have Todd McShay on Part of My Take saying that nobody he's spoken to believes Drake Maye should be drafted number 2 over Jayden Daniels, which is crazy. The exact quote was, quote, of the dozens of calls I've made from January to now, GMs, personal directors, scouts, there wasn't one person I've spoken to that believes Drake Maye should be drafted number 2 ahead of Jayden Daniels. And even though I do prefer Jayden Daniels over Drake Maye slightly, nobody is crazy. Like, that's crazy, dog. That has to be a flat out lie. I refuse, man. He had to have been trying to go for headlines, because there's no way not at least one person said that the Commanders should take Drake Maye. I know there seems to be a huge divide in the draft world. On one side, you have scouts, NFL executives, and GMs who actually work for NFL teams. Those guys generally seem to prefer Jayden Daniels. And then more on the NFL draft analyst side and reporters and guys like that, in the media side of things, they seem to like Drake Maye more. But either way, there's no way that nobody told Todd McShay that whoever he talked to, that the Commanders should pick Drake Maye. Not one person. I refuse to believe that. Again, I'm happy with both, but I do lean towards Jayden Daniels, and I still refuse to believe that that's true. And just like Daniel Jeremiah has been saying that it should and will be Drake Maye for the past few months, and then he switched his pick to Jayden Daniels literally just as of yesterday. Now you have Commanders hiring advisor Rick Spielman, who has also been saying that it will and should be Drake Maye for the past few months, and even doubled down on it as of just a few days ago. Now, as of today, even that Rick Spielman has switched his pick to Jayden Daniels. He said that he thinks that the Commanders are leaning towards Jayden Daniels. So now all of the Drake Maye's strongest supporters in the media have all changed their picks to Jayden Daniels within the past couple of days. Daniel Jeremiah and Rick Spielman going to the Jayden Daniels side of things is wild, because they've been 2 of the most dedicated, it's going to be Drake Maye and it also should be Drake Maye guys over the past few months. And I don't know what's happened the past couple of days, but both of those guys have officially said that they think it's going to be Jayden Daniels, man. One by one, people are changing their ideas of what's going on. And I think it's really interesting with the Rick Spielman thing, because Since he's the advisor, he literally was hired by Josh Harris to help bring in Adam Peters, along with the Warriors dynasty creator and Bob Myers. A lot of people were saying, well, okay, we don't care about how many people are picking Jayden Daniels all over the place, the media, scouts, whatever, it doesn't matter, because the guy closest to the organization and Rick Spielman is saying is Drake Maye. Now suddenly, since today he's changed his pick to Jayden Daniels, those same people are saying, nah, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's not that much of a reliable source. I thought that was hilarious. Either way, I feel like nobody actually really knows. I'm giving you all these updates more so for fun, just to keep you updated on everything that I know. Again, I want y'all all to come away with your own conclusions, but I really feel like at the end of the day, Adam Peters and Dan Quinn have not told anybody what they plan to do with that pick. There was even a report, I believe, from Albert Breer that even people within the organization do not know what Adam Peters and Dan Quinn plan to do with that pick. So I'm not saying that Rick Spielman has any real idea of what Adam Peters is thinking, but when somebody that close, that again has been saying Drake Maye since the 2023 season ended, and literally just a few days ago doubled down on it, like literally just a couple of days ago said it will be Drake Maye and it also should be Drake Maye. Now all of a sudden today, I don't know what new information he received, but on a podcast he said, man, it looks like Jayden Daniels. It looks like because of Cliff Kingsbury's system, they want to go after a guy like Jayden Daniels, which is crazy. So now momentum is drastically swinging in Jayden Daniels' favor. And speaking of things swinging in Jayden Daniels' favor, when you're looking at the number 2 overall pick odds from Roto World coming from DK Sportsbook, Jayden Daniels is now negative 400 to be the second overall pick. Drake Maye is plus 330 and JJ McCarthy is plus 1100. I don't know what happened. Like, I have no idea what happened, because literally just like over a week ago, Jayden Daniels had a big lead. Then after the Top Golf visit, it got really close and Drake Maye even passed him in a couple of sports books. Now Jayden Daniels has the biggest lead he's ever had this entire offseason as far as being the most likely pick second overall. And right now, according to Vegas, it would be a major upset if the Commanders select Drake Maye with the second overall pick instead of Jayden Daniels. So everybody's starting to really believe it's Jayden Daniels, but I'm afraid because I'm not sure, man. I haven't been able to truly put my heart in it and believe it yet. I'll believe it when I see it. Even with all of the evidence that we have and all of the trustworthy sources, I'll believe it when I see it, because again, I don't think Adam Peters has told anybody what he's doing. But again, like I've even talked about like a week or two ago when I was saying like, I mean, I don't exactly understand why we're being so secretive about this pick. Nobody can really do anything about it. If we want Jayden Daniels and literally came out and said right now, we're taking Jayden Daniels with the second overall pick, nobody can really do anything about it. Good luck. You know what I'm saying? We have the second overall pick. The Bears are taking Caleb Williams. We're taking Jayden Daniels. Now the draft starts with the Patriots. What could anybody do about it? But either way, just like I said, I personally feel like between the two, Jayden Daniels and Drake Maye, we can't miss. I'm happy with either one, but at the same time, I really want to emphasize that we really need to hit on quarterback, because listen to this crazy stat. Shouts out to Warren Sharp at Sharp Football on Twitter. He said, I looked annually at the Washington Commanders passing offenses since 2000, 24 different seasons. Statistically, the 5 worst seasons have all come most recently. Number 1 worst 2020, number 2 worst 2019, number 3 worst 2018, number 4 worst 2023, and number 5 worst 2022. It's time to turn it around with that second overall pick. That stat is alarming. For the past 24 seasons, our 5 worst offensive seasons have all come the 5 most recent years, literally going from 2018 to 2023 in different orders, but still they've all come in the last 5 years. That's absolutely terrible. Please, can we get it right this time? Please, Adam Peters, pick the right guy. Not only, again, I feel like I'm gonna keep saying it. I don't feel like we can really miss between the two. I'm happy with Jayden Daniels and Drake Maye, even though I prefer Jayden Daniels. But most importantly, after you take the quarterback, do everything in your power to make sure that that quarterback can succeed. That's the most important part here. Make sure schematically the offense is built around him. Don't try to fit a square peg into a round hole. Make sure Cliff Kingsbury, you take this offense and mold it around that quarterback's strengths and do whatever you can schematically to hide his weaknesses while he develops it. Speaking of development, we brought in having all of these proven quarterback developers and Cliff Kingsbury, Heisman Trophy winners, and Rookie of the Years at quarterback at the NFL level, Brian Johnson, league MVP candidates at quarterback with Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts and these guys. Then you also have our entire quarterback room. You have Anthony Lynn, who helped develop and gave Justin Herbert the opportunity to win his Offensive Rookie of the Year when he was the head coach for the Chargers. We have so many guys that have taken quarterbacks and made them successful at the NFL level for one way or another, one reason or another, different play styles. So I feel like that group, I can trust them, but I still need y'all to go out there and develop whichever quarterback you take. Make sure you work on those weaknesses. It's Cliff Kingsbury's job to kind of work around the weaknesses while he has them, but then it's up to those quarterback developers to get those weaknesses out of them as soon as possible. And then also Adam Peters, all of y'all, make sure we draft guys that are built that best suit the quarterback that you've taken. Make sure you get offensive linemen. If you get a guy like Jayden Daniels who loves to run, make sure you have offensive linemen that not only can block longer because he likes to take off with his legs and things like that, but also that are fairly mobile so they can get to that next level and help block for Jayden Daniels. Same thing, if you're taking Jayden Daniels, you're more likely to draft receivers that can attack down the field and can track the ball deep down the field, especially on those slot fades that Jayden Daniels is elite with. Versus like Drake Maye, you're more than likely get some route running guys that can get open in the middle of the field. So make sure you draft based on the quarterback that you took second overall. Make sure you do everything in your power to help that guy succeed schematically and on the personnel side of things, team building side. So, hey man, again, I'm gonna keep saying it. I don't think we can really miss, but at the end of the day, drafting the quarterback is only the first step. You got to do everything after that to make sure he's ready to succeed. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. I'm working on trying to get a mock draft out by tonight, maybe the mock draft of what I want to happen, so that by Wednesday evening, I can have a mock draft out of what I believe will happen, like my final predictive mock draft. So make sure you stay tuned for all of that content. I'm super excited. Can't wait for this draft. Again, I will be live streaming rounds 1 through 5, so make sure you pull up for that. My dog Shay, who is of course a Patriots fan, will be there for day 1, round 1 on Thursday night, because we pick second, he picks third. It makes just too much sense. So make sure you pull up for that. We're going to be breaking down every single draft pick, even predicting future ones, as well as while people are on the clock, reacting to draft trades, reacting to reaches, reacting to steals, all of that type of stuff. And again, I'm rooting for the Commanders to trade back up into the first round for a tackle like my dog Amarius Mims. I'm really putting forward great energy for that to happen. Of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Who do you feel will be the pick and all of that type of stuff? And again, do not leave this video without leaving a like. I'm gonna catch y'all later. Appreciate y'all. I'm out.